All right. Welcome to Momivate Momversations on the Win-Win Women platform, where we women gather to care, connect, and collaborate. Truly a win-win for us all. Here at Momivate Momversations, it's always our goal to keep calm and mom on. I'm your hostess, Reagan Barnes, mom of 8 and founder of the nonprofit organization Momivate that empowers you to elevate your mothering experience. We welcome you into the Momivate community, or Momunity, as we like to say. Together, we enrich motherhood as we answer the question, what do moms do anyway? With this uplifting statement, moms raise up society. That's right, not just our own kids, but all of society, including ourselves, are uplifted by the work of intentional mothers. Because as moms, we are uniquely positioned to influence society one-on-one in each of the 7 categories of the Raise Up acronym: relationships, atmosphere, income and outgo, schedules and systems, energy, unique circumstances, and personal pursuits. Today, we are going to focus on the P part of the acronym, personal pursuits. Now, as you can see on the slide, the relationships are at the basis of our Raise Up acronym. It's really a pretty cool little visual there because it has the upward motion as it spells out raise up, but it also has meaning in having those relationships there at the foundation, because if there are not positive relationships, then everything else crumbles. Now, as you work your way up to the top of the acronym, that's where the personal pursuits are. And that's an interesting place because that means they come last, which as moms, we know all too well is the truth. Often our personal pursuits, our goals, get pushed to the very end because we're busy taking care of all this other stuff. But I want us to also visualize it perhaps as like a cloud that can then rain down onto these other things. And that as we pursue our personal pursuits, it goes and has a positive influence on these other areas of our lives in growing those things and categories. So it's really critical, since we do tend to push those things off. We tend to maybe forget that we are people too. We have goals, we have talents that we were well aware of before our kids came along, but we might have forgotten in the time since then. So we need to realize that that can be like burying our talents, and that that's not a way to move forward in life. We need to be willing to use some of these metaphors that come up, things like, how do we serve water from an empty well? We need to have our buckets full in order to be able to give out to other people's buckets. There's also the airplane metaphor. When the airplane is in distress, whose oxygen mask do you put on first? And it's ours as the mom. We have to wear that oxygen mask. Another one is sharpening the saw. That as we're going about with all these relationships and atmosphere and income and outgo and schedules and energy, but that we're going to be able to do that better if we take the time to make sure our tools are in good shape. So sharpening the saw, putting on the airplane mask, having our goals on the back burner, but not taken off of the stove altogether. A key word that gets used is self-care, but I kind of like the word self-sustenance a little better than self-care, because that really indicates the purpose of why we're doing it. We need to be sustained ourselves in order to sustain others. So Momivate wants you, yes, you, to continually nourish yourself. Now, a well-fed mama can best provide nourishment to her offspring. And so in the light of that particular metaphor, we want to recommend a well-rounded diet in each of the spices of life. This, of course, is another acronym. So we're going to move to the next slide that shows what our spices of life are. This can give you a little bit of structure when you're thinking about, well, what goals do I want to set? So there are spiritual goals, physical goals, intellectual goals, community goals that can be like reaching out and being social, emotional goals, and then there's survival mode, which doesn't necessarily sound like a goal, but it is an absolutely critical aspect because it's so true to life as a mom. Sometimes we just have to go into survival mode. So if we have set goals about what that survival mode will look like, then it doesn't feel quite as drastic when it comes time to move in to survival mode. Now, we do trust in the Christian admonition that we find ourselves when we lose ourselves in the service of others. So that unfortunately creates a little bit of a juxtaposition, as if pursuing personal goals is somehow against the idea of losing ourselves in others. However, I think that they really can be and need to be interlocked with each other. In fact, a set of gears is a really good visual for that. So maybe a mother who really enjoys artistic, tangible things can be scrapbooking for her child. And that way she's still focused on her child, but also getting to use her artistic talents to bless that child. Maybe a mother who wants to go hiking a lot rather than separating it to where she hikes by herself. Perhaps she packs that baby on her back, gets a little more of a workout, but it also gives the baby fresh air and a chance to have mama accessible, because that's what babies really need, is knowing where mom is. And it also sets such a great example to our kids to have them go on the hike with us. Maybe a mom who really wants to be more social instead of always doing mom's nights out, which aren't bad things to do, but just as far as in good measure, she instead could just make sure that she regularly invites people, other moms and their children, into her home and creates a social atmosphere there in her home, which again sets the example for her kids. When there's a mom who wants to develop intellectually, like reading books about psychology, for instance, she can make sure that she's connecting that knowledge into the lives of her children, that she's bringing up the conversations about things that she's learning. And that in turn will give those children powerful tools to prevent or manage common issues that are just rampant in today's society, such as depression or anxiety or bipolar. And maybe moms will be motivated to read those kinds of books and gain that kind of knowledge because of knowing that children in this day and time are often afflicted by these kinds of things. So we're going to stop sharing the slides at this point and just read I'm going to share a little bit more about some things that are on our website. If you are interested in reading more, you can go to the website too and find these things on the website. So again, just overview there of the spices of life, and consider for yourself what kinds of goals you would want to set in each of those areas. So it's spiritual. This can take on so many different forms. It's interesting how taking that time to be religious on your own doesn't just influence you, but because it changes you and helps you want to treat other people better, then again, it's like that rain filtering down and making things better for everything underneath it. So your family and your friends will really benefit from your taking time to devote to your God. And that looks different For everybody, it might mean attending Sunday services. It might mean reading holy books that your religion focuses on. It might mean volunteering for a food drive. In the Christian religion, and I think other religions too, the first great commandment is to love God. And so I encourage you to prayerfully consider how you can conscientiously upgrade your worship and grow in your love of your God. The P in S.P.I.C.E.S is for physical goals. And there, again, are just incredible side effects that we generally aren't going to appreciate until we're actually participating. As we get our heart beating and our glands sweating. But this helps us decrease depression, sleep better at night. You can meet new friends by being physically active. And it's just plain fun. Ask your kids. They really enjoy being physically active. So again, take a minute. Think about what gets you excited to get your gear on and go play. Maybe in high school, way back then, you had an extracurricular activity. Maybe you danced or played basketball or volleyball. I was a runner. Some people swim. So make time to continue those hobbies. And I encourage you to include your family as much as possible. Again, this sets a really good example for kids and helps them see that it's a culture, a family culture that you're building, and not just that mom leaves and goes and does something that they don't know what it is. With the intellectual aspect of goals, so this is the I in S.P.I.C.E.S. Really, education is at our fingertips, right? Learning something new has proven to help people avoid or overcome depression. So think about what interests you and sign up for a class, maybe at the local community college, or just go peruse your local library. There's even websites that have cool lessons online. You can download Duolingo and learn a new language. I enjoy getting magazines in the mail that they kind of are tangible for me, and I like to have them arrive and, I can read something new. So just figure out for yourself how to feed your brain. And again, this is setting an example, sets up a culture of learning in your home that your children will absorb just by living with you. And I think that'll change their overall attitude towards education. They'll see broader purposes. It's not just about going to school, because mom doesn't go to school, but she still learns lots of things. The C in S.P.I.C.E.S, again, is for community. So I think that it's a true phrase that mothers tend to be social creatures. But when our work is primarily home-based, we have to put a little more effort into crossing paths with our coworkers. There's no water cooler for us to gather around, right? So here at Momivate, we're planning to start putting together what's called SMILE gatherings. This is another acronym, but it gives a goal for the meeting. We all want to smile more and enjoy motherhood more. And part of that is to be social together and find that support at that meeting. And it also describes what we talk about at the meetings. We give each other support for the S in SMILE. And the M and the I and the L are for music and inspiration and laughter. And then the E is for education, so that we're growing together in all of these areas of the Raise Up acronym and setting goals and sharing insights. So we really look forward to when these SMILE gatherings get launched. Be sure to sign up that you are interested in attending SMILE gatherings, and we'll keep you posted on our newsletters. So an idea that outside of the Momivate SMILE gatherings could be, maybe you could join the PTA at your school. Maybe you could host a book club or throw a party. Back on November 11th, 2011, I know that's 11 years ago, but I realized that it was 11, 11, 11. And I decided to throw a party, and we all did 11 different activities and ate 11 different foods. And it was just a lot of fun. And then we did it again for 12, 12, 12 the next year. So just throw a party for whatever reason. You can even do this with social media, post uplifting thoughts and have the desire to uplift other mothers and feed them good things on their social media feed. Now, the E in SPICES is for emotional goals. It is really critical to become comfortable with the wide range of emotions that we as mothers feel. I really recommend journaling. It's a powerful way to increase your emotional health because of the processing that goes on as you write. Therapy is a little more expensive than a journal, but it might be worth the investment. I just want you to be deliberate in discovering how to expand the happy moments of motherhood and effectively decrease the stressors. And maybe the situations stay the same, but being able to work through the emotions and the thought processes makes it a possible goal. And here's the little hint that kind of ties everything in as far as the physical as well. Hugging. Isn't this like underused superpower? It's a physical act, but it actually does have emotional ramifications. We are just wired in our bodies to get these doses of oxytocin, which is the happiness hormone, with every hug that we give and get. Okay, so now at the end of the SPICES acronym is the S for survival mode. This is just for the fact that that's what motherhood brings with it sometimes. So expecting it and preparing for it by setting up schedules and systems in advance that can run on autopilot. That way, when the survival mode times come, you know, first of all, that it's temporary, that you will overcome it eventually. You can just accept the situation for what it is. You can reach out for help. You can already have thought through what areas of life are dispensable, basically, and then what areas of life are not, that you really need to grasp onto to get that most effective sense of stability. So those routines, again, as I mentioned before, they are what feed your sanity. So explain to your children what about those routines might need to be simplified in the moment, how that might change life for them. Ask them, invite them to join you in the sacrifices necessary during survival mode. And in the end, this really can mean that it's a positive experience overall for yourself and your children. I think that it's kind of like that concept of resistance when you're swimming. And that's what builds your muscles, is that resistance. And so these young ones, even though we're sad for them that they're having to go through whatever crisis this is, they are actually being able to navigate that and build their own capabilities and strength through that resistance. And we can be helping them through it because we are able to be on this planned survival mode. So here at Momivate, we have that SPICES idea. And then we also have like principles that help us to shape what these SPICES can be governed by. So these are kind of like the guardrails on the journey of personal pursuits. These are the things that keep us from going crazy with the goals. And it really starts with the concept of time. Realizing that the time we spend on personal pursuits is an investment. It does mean that we might not be able to watch as much TV or whatever other mind-numbing stuff we sometimes do. But it's an investment, and we can see it as building our capabilities that are required for motherhood. So overlapping and intertwining those personal and those maternal activities, that helps us to instead of feeling like we have to compartmentalize and live two totally separate lives. So again, really thinking through that concept of time. Now, another principle is the concept of personhood. Becoming a mother is an addition to your identity, not an elimination of your individuality. Obviously, adjustments have to be made, but being able to remain one with your pre-mom self helps you to honor your personhood and meet your needs alongside meeting the needs of the other people that you care about, your husband, your children, your in-laws, other mothers. It's an interesting practice in like a piece of glass, whether you're using it as a mirror or as a window. And in either case, being aware of the people around you and their personhood, so to speak, as well. So another principle that we teach is growth mindset. This is the realization that, yes, I have limitations, but I realize I can overcome whatever limitations I deem necessary and worthy of my efforts. So picking and choosing what we're going to strive to overcome, and realizing that putting that positive, optimistic energy into it is worthwhile, and sets a good example for our kids who are always trying to learn and grow. Another principle is endurance, because progress really is very gradual. So being committed to enduring in our efforts, being committed to not giving up when we fall down, being willing to get back up. And I think that's a critical thing. There's a Tub Thumper song, or Tub Thumping, I think it's called, where they sing, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You can never, ever keep me down. And that's something I've learned to repeat to myself, because it's not like I necessarily get knocked down by violent efforts to knock me down, but it's just a normal part of life. You trip up on whatever you're trying to do. And so you gotta be committed to getting back up. Now, the next principle is going to seem anti-goal, but it's part of balancing out all of the thoughts that go on in our heads. This principle is your innate worth. You have value that is independent of what you accomplish or what you produce. Your worth is infinite and static. No matter whether you succeed or whether you fail with your goals, you are still worth anything and everything, and you have value no matter what. Somehow accepting that gives you freedom. And I encourage you, if you don't believe that yet, if you are so oriented on achievement, take some time to work that truth into your heart and see how it changes your love for yourself and for your family, the people around you. Another principle is attitude. Realizing how critical attitude is to success. So really putting effort into developing an optimistic outlook that's flexible and constructive. This is all these principles, of course, are tied to each other again. Like that set of gears, one thing leads to the next and keeps the other attitudes in place. So the concept of pacing myself, realizing that even if progress seems slow, just keep moving forward anyways, like the turtle in The Turtle and the Hare, the rabbit, and how the slow and steady wins the race. So it's not quite the same as permission to procrastinate, but just being gently realistic regarding our finite resources of time and energy. Now, our final principle is a great one to end on because it ties all of these things together with a pretty little ribbon. The concept that motherhood can be the means of meeting your goals. Unfortunately, I have battled with a rather prevalent attitude in the world that motherhood is an obstacle or an interruption to my personal growth. And I'm so grateful for my years of motherhood now, where I have put a good fight against that attitude and really discovered it's quite the opposite. Motherhood is neither an obstacle nor an interruption. In fact, it's the vehicle to overcome the impediments and distractions that tend to arise on the path of progress. The various challenges of motherhood serve as the impetus for improvement because they are fueled by selfless love for my offspring. So setting goals within the frame of motherhood expands the impact to include my children's well-being, not just my own. I kind of see it like a space shuttle that's on the launching pad and getting ready to take off into space. But some of these engineers come along and strap these little rocket boosters to the space shuttle. And if that space shuttle could talk, it might be saying, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing strapping these things to there? I have to weigh less to go up in the air, not weigh more. And you're strapping these little," and in the metaphor, our children might feel like they're strapped to us and holding us down. But the reality is those rocket boosters are necessary for us as the space shuttle to be launched and to break the bonds of gravity that hold us down. And eventually in our real lives, after we've launched, those rocket boosters do fall away. I'm starting that phase of life. I have 2 children who have moved on in life and no longer live at home with me. And I'm seeing how much higher I've been able to fly because of the time that they were strapped to me and helped me to launch. And I'm so grateful for that. I would never give it up for whatever other goals I might have ever reached. It wouldn't be the same without my children. And I'm happy I got this opportunity to share these insights with you. And I invite you to join our show live. If you've watched this as a recording, come be with us for the second half of the show where we turn off the recording and talk amongst each other. We might share insights and thoughts and ask questions of each other and build that sociality that moms just really thrive in. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time here on the Win Win Women Network. Thank you.